everyone. Welcome to another episode of BFF, a show where two best friends review movies because fan friction. We're your hosts. I'm Ashley.
Joe.
All right, so it's another episode where we're going to be tag teaming the fact-checking / Twitter reading, whatever you want to call it, social media working. This episode is very movie heavy.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that I've seen.
A lot that I've seen.
But there's only a few things that mutually neither one of us have seen.
So the films this time around start with Les Miserables from 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Theatrical version.
Yeah, theatrical version. Prisoners from 2013. Gallipoli.
Wow.
Wow, that's like a deep cut. 1981. Also very hard movie to find.
Yes.
And Goodfellas from 1990. So those are the mutual choices that we haven't seen. However, the choice that we're going to go with for today's episode that neither of us have seen is 2006's The Prestige.
Yep.
So what do you know about this movie?
I know it's about magicians. I know it stars, is it Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman. He's the question base of that round.
And Batman. Christian Bale.
Like, which one?
But most notably, it has featuring Nikola Tesla as a character played by David Bowie.
Yeah, and those are pretty much the things I know about the movie.
It's about competing magicians.
I think I get this confused with another movie that might have come out around the same time, where
like The Illusionists or something?
Maybe, or like I remember there was something with a theater.
Yeah.
And two people competing, but I don't think this is that movie. I think this is a different movie, and I'm thinking of some other movie I can't remember.
Yep.
That I never saw, and I think I remember seeing like a preview for this or a commercial and going, okay, that's a movie.
Yeah.
And kind of going, and I'm going to go on my day.
So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, we don't know a lot about this, but we're going to go find out right now as we'll watch it, and we'll come back and let you know what we thought.
Yep.
Alright guys, we're back. In the first segment we talked about like being confused about, or at least I was confused about, like I knew it was about magicians, but I got it confused with the movie Majestic, which was the one about the movie theater. I guess because the titles both sound magical.
Well,
I don't know.
You know, it does do with the theater.
So this movie, I was not aware, was directed and written by Christopher Nolan. This is coming off of Batman Begins era, you know, reinvigorating the comic book movie and really kind of setting his, like he was known for movies before this, like he directed Memento, but like this is where we're really starting to see his director star rise and him getting a lot of, prestige. No pun intended, in the industry and really become a well-known name among other people.
And I wasn't aware of it either, but once I started seeing some familiar faces like Christian Bale and Michael Caine, when I saw them, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of wondering.
It's Batman 2.0 or whatever, 1.5?
Something along those lines.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting to see both of them.
Though to be fair, Michael Caine and Christian Bale don't have as much interaction.
No, they don't, so that does kind of help differentiate it. So this film centers around rival magicians. They were once friends, but kind of, like you could see there was some tension simmering with
what they healthy rivalry.
And with like what they wanted to do with the medium, you know, playing it too safe versus taking risks. And as the result of, I guess, this rivalry, it's kind of confusing in the beginning of the movie where Christian Bale's character, he's Alfred Borden, like they're the plants in the audience for this magic trick involving a woman, you know, being put into
a glass tank
full of water, and it's locked. And so Borden ties her hands together, and then Hugh Jackman's character, Robert Anger, he ties the feet. And, you know, every time they've done this trick, you know, it's gone off without a hitch, except, of course,
this one
time. And you kind of see there's some kind of weird tension when Bale is tying her hands together. He's, like, doing the knot one way, but then he does it another way. And, of course, she can't free herself, so, like, they're trying to, like, bust her out, and it's too late because she drowns because they can't get to her. And then it's kind of, like, revealed that or at least from my paying attention to it, like
it was like the scene before.
Yeah, like, this is his wife, and now she's dead, and so this really kind of splits the two apart.
This is that triggering spark that creates the whole situation.
Yeah, the inciting incident.
The rest of this movie relies on this one moment.
Yeah, and previous to that, like, that there's tension. We should have probably mentioned this first, but it's going to be a non-linear episode to match the fact that the whole movie is a non-linear narrative. So the very beginning of the movie, Angiers is doing this trick, and he falls into the same tank, and he can't get out. And the way the narrative is structured, it makes it look like Borden is the one that set this all up and, basically killed him.
Or at the very least, did absolutely nothing
to help him. Exactly. And so he's on trial, he goes to jail, and so then it's like a bunch of different scenes of switching back and forth. To me, it seemed kind of like very subtle switches back and forth in the non-linear narrative style.
Yeah.
But which seems very much like something that, Christopher Nolan seems to do well with, because he's done Inception and other movies.
At least does a lot.
It does a lot. It's just, a Christopher Nolan trope, maybe.
And that's part of my issue is the switches and perspective and place and things like that were almost too subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Like it took me about 5 seconds in each scene to go like, okay, we're in a new time now.
Timeline, new perspective.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting because, like, you would see a scene one way, like at the beginning of the movie, you would see that scene, and then they later on call back to that scene, but then you get more of a perspective on what actually happened. And they do that earlier with Scarlett Johansson's character, Olivia, who is Angier's assistant. Initially. And then he wants her to defect and go to Borden's side so that he can find out how he's doing this
trick,
the transporting man.
Yep.
Like, they just cannot figure it out. And Cutter, who is played by Michael Caine, just keeps telling him they have a double. And she's like, no, they don't. Like, there's no way that he has a double because his hand is messed up from
a scene earlier.
Yeah, this whole they keep trying to sabotage each other's tricks.
Yeah.
So they'll go to the magic show disguised, and like, I need a volunteer, and they volunteer, and they don't realize till too late like what's happened. So yeah, that's how Bale's character gets his
pinky and ring finger.
Yeah, pinky and ring finger torn off, and then in turn, like Hugh Jackman's character is trying to reinvent this whole bird cage trick where you don't actually kill a bird, but Bale messes it up. So not only does the bird die, but another lady who was just an innocent victim in the audience, like, she gets maimed as well. And like, there's all sorts of like going back and forth, them trying to ruin each other.
Yep.
And it's just very interesting how, like, the only way they could tell this story is non-linearly, because otherwise it would just be so boring.
Yeah.
Because you would know everything. And so I like it how they do, like, all these misdirections in the movie, which is very cool because considering that the movie's about magicians, a magician is all about misdirecting you, making you look here so that you don't see the reveal until they're ready for it.
Or you don't notice it.
Mm-hmm,
like, you might see it, but it may not register.
So I thought that was pretty cool that they would do something like this in a movie about magicians, non-linear, so that we're guessing, and there's a lot of foreshadowing, of course, in the movie as well.
From like the get-go.
Yes.
Where there's this little boy that asks where this dead bird's brother is.
Yes, with the little bird. Yeah, they do a little bird trick, and they reveal like, oh look, it's a happy little bird, and he's like, where's its brother? And it's like, oh, you're very clever.
Yeah.
And then you see the little dead bird, and they throw it in the trash, and there's all these other birds. It's like, well, it was your lucky day today.
Which foreshadows all the way to the very end of the movie with the lucky day concept and everything else.
Yes. So. Yeah, you were guessing a lot of the plot points. They weren't tricking you too well in this movie. You're like, I bet it's this.
Yeah. About the time that they get Hugh Jackman a double, I started figuring some of it out.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a turning point for me in my viewing of this movie, because before that I was like, okay, like, this movie's about magicians, they hate each other, I could see why that he wouldn't like him, and they're trying to ruin each other. And like, yes, this is a pretty standard movie, non-linear narrative, whatever. But then when they introduce the concept of the double, with the human double, I'm like, okay, now there's a chance that he's actually still alive.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was like, well, obviously he's dead. They showed him that he's dead, but we're just learning these things through flashback because it makes the story more interesting. But then introducing the concept of the double again, like, oh, so that made it, that made me instantly more engaged in the narrative, and I was really much more invested in the plot from that point forward. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they, take that part away because the double, like, he's an alcoholic.
Like failed actor.
And Bale gets to him, and they kind of conspire together to ruin the trick. And basically as an advertisement for Bale's own magic show. Yep. Like right across the street, there's a better show, ladies and gentlemen. Come one, come all.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's hard to parse because this movie does a lot of the scene transitions and things like that in a way that makes it hard to follow sometimes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they do drop hints about the whole brother thing and they foreshadow everything. One of the big reveals at the end, Borden, Christian Bale's character, he does reveal that he does have a body double, but it's his twin brother, and it's always been his twin brother. It's his little compatriot named Fallon. Yeah, the guy who's been helping him out. And that's the point is, in every scene you see Fallon, you don't know which guy is being Fallon, whether it's Alfred or Freddy. Mm-hmm. They drop hints on it from the very get-go. Mm-hmm. Not only with the brother, the bird scene, which was like one of the first ones they do, mm-hmm. but at some point he's talking to a girl, the woman that will end up being his wife, Sarah, played by, where is it?
Rebecca Hall.
Rebecca Hall, thank you. That when he tells her he loves her, she says, "You're lying today, but some days you tell the truth, and it's okay because that makes the days where you tell me the truth more special." Mm-hmm. And it's like if you've ever played BioShock, it's that would you kindly moment when you look back on every instance where they dropped a hint for you and you're just kind of like, oh, crud, they've been telling me this from the get-go that this was a thing. And
yeah, I know another point where, like in the narrative, like there's a whole deal with the diaries, and Jackman's character has Bale's diary, and he has to get the cipher for it, so he kidnaps Fallon, and that's when Bale gets the idea to do this buried man trick, which they don't really show in the movie. And he, gets the cipher, and he's trying to figure everything out. And then as he's reading the diary, and you start getting more insight into like when Scarlett Johansson's character Defective and what she really said.
It's like you can see the rest of the scene.
Yes, and how like they are together. So yeah, he's reading his diary, and like as Hugh Jackman is reading Bale's diary, he's like, "I know you're reading this. I planted it all along. Ha ha ha." Evil mustache twist.
Yeah, it's basically that you find out Borden set it up for Angier to get the diary from Scarlett Johansson from the very get-go, mm-hmm. or from Olivia from the very get-go, and that pays off again later, because the bulk of the movie can be summed up as that Borden is reading Angier's diary, mm-hmm. in prison, having been accused of killing him.
Yeah.
He's reading his diary, and that's where you're getting a lot of this from, with intercuts back to him being in prison. And it pays off later when he finishes the diary, and he's like, "And I made it. And I know you're reading my diary right now, mm-hmm. and it's not going to help you. You're not going to figure out my tricks." So, and in
trying to recreate the transported man,
yeah,
it involves Nikola Tesla, played by David Bowie,
amazingly,
and he's invented this kind of not like total Tesla coil, but kind of based off a Tesla coil principle that at first it doesn't seem to work, but then it's later revealed that it's basically an instant cloning machine.
Yeah. And it's a clone / teleporter.
Yeah, so it teleports your clone somewhere else,
or teleports you and leave a clone in your place.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's really hard to gauge.
Exactly, and so he's going to use this to finally, get back at him. 100 performances, you know, it's going to be a big deal and like he's never going to be able to figure it out. So like there's this moment of foreshadowing when like the bodies drop into the tank where the drowning happened, and every night you just see them carted away, but you don't ever get to see like what's inside them. But you know that he can't have all these clones of himself running around, so
he even shows at one point the first time he tests it and he creates a clone of himself, he shoots it. Or maybe the clone shoots him. Because at one point Hugh Jackman even says, I never know if it's going to be me or another me that makes it. That's the one that survives.
Am I going to be the one that's, you know,
in the tank, or am I going to be up on the balcony?
Am I the man in the box? Because as they say, no one cares about what happens to the man in the box.
Nope.
And I just thought that was like a great little like theme that worked throughout the film. And so he sets him up to be framed for murder, and then like shows up with his daughter at the prison, and so you think everything is gonna be over, and then they do the big reveal about Fallon is really
Freddy or Alfred or whichever one.
He's really bored and they're twins, and
they start going over all the other clues they give you. Like at one point, after there's a scene after he loses his 2 fingers that his wife makes a comment that like it's like the injury is like as bad as it was the day that it happened.
It shouldn't still be bleeding.
Shouldn't be this bad.
And they show him like, you know, like put this like not machine.
No, it's like a chisel.
Chisels off his fingers. Chisels off his fingers, and
it's pretty sick. They basically, the last scene is them talking about what sacrifices they've made to get here.
Unraveling the plot, and so it's implied that, you know, Fallon is the one that's really in jail and murdered. I think that's what they were trying to say.
I don't even know.
I don't know, guys. If you know, tell us, because it was kind of confusing.
This is very much like the end of the thing for me. It's I'm sure there's an answer, and I'm sure it's there. There's obvious tricks and clues, but it's you don't know if the Angier at the end of the movie was the Angier from the beginning of the movie. You're pretty sure it's not. And you have no clue which Christian Bale character, which Borden, whether it was Alfred or Freddy, which one is which. Because they masterfully pull it off. You can kind of get an idea, but
this is definitely one of those movies that you probably have to watch a couple of times to really unravel all of the plots. We only watched it once, so if we get stuff wrong, that's what we're going to blame it on. But I just really thought that the nonlinear narrative and the foreshadowing was done so well, and again, kind of relating with that motif of the magician, you know, like they're trying to do all these misdirections so that you're engaged with the story, and
the whole movie is misdirection. And it's not just like the little things here and there. It's like they've been telling you from like one of the earliest scenes that like this is all about people, like for example, they tell you fairly early on, they give you all the hints you need that there is a body double. That's why I think I figured it out as quickly as I did.
You were figuring out everything.
But I don't know, but they misdirect you with so much else in this movie. The story, the characters, the designs, everything it misdirects you from paying attention to what's really going on behind the scenes. So it does a decent job.
Because I wasn't immediately engaged in the movie, it took me a little while. I would have to but at the end, I was like totally sold. And the fact that this is a movie that you can go back to and probably gain more insight out of, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 points. You know, I just think there were some flaws. But I think on repeated viewing, it's going to be like a movie that, just again, like a good book, like you're going to gain new insight from. And I look forward to watching this again because I want to try to figure out all of the little tricks and how everything works. And I think it was really cool. Like on first glance, the title, The Prestige, seems kind of lame. But then when you know the conceit of the movie, it makes total sense why they would call it that.
I, on the other hand, did not like it that much. It was like, it's one of those movies that I recognize is a very good movie. It is well crafted, masterfully acted, well directed, well written, everything. I mean, I'm praising the fact that the entire movie is a magic trick. I mean, the whole thing is all about misdirection and the build up and making you think, is this real? And then finally the prestige at the end where you believe in this stuff. And by that note, I didn't really enjoy it. It was okay. Like, I would watch it if it's on, but I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it.
You're not going to be like,
let's sit down and watch The Prestige.
I will be the one, let's watch The Prestige again. You're like, I'm going to go next door.
No, I'm just going to be like, let me, sure, okay, whatever. I'll play a game or something on Steam.
All right, so what score would you give it?
Like a 5.
So
it's in the middle. Like,
it's in the middle for you. Okay.
I don't hate it, but I really don't like it.
Yeah.
And I think I'm starting to realize it's just more like I'm not a huge fan of Christopher Nolan.
Okay.
While I enjoy his movies, I'm often like, they're okay.
Yeah, see, and I kind of, now this makes me want to watch more Christopher Nolan movies, so yay, you're going to be so excited.
So, but yeah, that's been us on The Prestige, and next is the fan fiction portion.
Yes, so we'll come back after all of that has been wrapped up and read your tweets and talk about whether or not, how well it fits the question.
Yep.
Hey everyone, we're back and Fan Fiction episode 204 has been completed and we're here to talk about everything Hugh Jackman and Wolverine.
Or at least not being Wolverine, which was the question for this round. The question, as you probably just saw if you're just finishing watching Fan Fiction, what is the best Hugh Jackman movie where he isn't the Wolverine?
And it feels like every movie that he's been in lately, at least from my radar perspective, it's like every movie's Wolverine.
Hashtag typecast.
Yeah. And it was probably why he doesn't want to be the character anymore, because he's been that character since we were in high school.
Yep. That's more than likely the legitimate reason. So.
And we've been out of high school for quite a while. So
over a decade.
Yeah. So The Prestige, which was Ryan's choice, was up against Les Miserables and Prisoners. I always want to call that The Prisoners. I don't know why. I just like those definite articles so much.
Yeah, well.
That's a grammar joke for people that understand language.
Nerd.
Hashtag teacher.
So The Prestige was the movie we chose, of course, as you've already seen watching the rest of this episode.
Yeah, unless you just skipped ahead to this section, then why would you do that?
So The Prestige was chosen, and it's an okay movie.
Yeah, and they were Sam and Garrett. It really didn't have too much negative to say about it, but only because it seemed like the whole fight revolved around let's dump all over Les Miserables.
And considering that's kind of the tactic I used of the phone call situation and Dr. Strangelove, I can't really say it's a bad tactic.
No, it's definitely not a bad tactic. And so some of the negative things that were said about The Prestige, Sam talked about how it put him to sleep for 2 hours, so he was grateful for that.
I mean, that's a boon.
And and he talked about the time cuts, like 146 different time cuts. The non-linear storytelling really took him out of the movie and made it hard for him to follow. And Garrett also talked about the pacing of the movie being a flaw. And
I think that's more of a design choice by Nolan, though.
Yeah. But definitely something that, to him, made it not a good movie. So when you're arguing the best, a lot of the times your argument is going to be your opinion because, sometimes the facts are, they are on an even keel. Like Garrett brought up about Prisoners, that it was nominated for Best Cinematography, but The Prestige was also nominated for that. So,
which I think Ryan brought it up.
Yeah, he did as a counterpoint.
I mean, what can you say other than that? I mean, these are 3 movies that did okay when they came out that feature Hugh Jackman and a fairly large cast. All of them are actually massive ensemble casts. But they're okay movies.
Yeah, and so obviously, like, Hugh Jackman has a starring role in them, but the question is about what's the best movie that Hugh Jackman's in, that he's not Wolverine, not like what's the best role that he's ever played.
Correct.
And I think Garrett had a stronger argument overall about why his movie was better than the other two. Like Sam focused a lot on Russell Crowe because I guess like he's an easy target from Les Mis because he can't sing very well in that movie. And Ryan didn't spend a whole lot of time praising his movie as much as he could. And he spent more time definitely on the tear down the other ones, mostly Les Mis.
It was easier to tear down.
Yes, and then Prisoners didn't really have a whole lot negative said towards it.
Nope.
And kind of by the end of the argument, Ryan was just like, just give the point to Garrett.
To be fair, people tried to say stuff about negative about Prisoners, but this movie is the kind of movie where it's going to be you either love it or you don't. And it's going to be things that people could find that are negatives about this movie. Someone that loves the movie may not see them that way.
Exactly.
For example, my argument, the reason I actually did not think Prisoners was the best choice for this round, personally, if I were judging, is when it was brought up that they wanted a movie where Hugh Jackman is not playing the Wolverine. And of the 3 roles, Prisoners is the one where he's more like Wolverine. And we're not saying that that's a bad thing considering the circumstance that the character's in.
Definitely.
He would act that way. But we wouldn't make this comparison if it wasn't Hugh Jackman.
Exactly. And I probably would have picked a different movie. Yeah. I would try to go with a movie that was definitely, you could never say, like, he's just playing the Wolverine, like in Kate and Leopold. But you can't say that about...
He's way too
You can't say that about him. So that was really the only knock that anyone had against that choice. And then again, like Garrett said, in the circumstances, of course he's going to act that way.
Sure, but we wouldn't be making that comparison if it wasn't Hugh Jackman.
Oh, I know. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, who made the best argument for the movie being the best, I think Garrett had a lot more points towards why his movie was the best. It was the most consistent argument. So where would you rank the Prestige based off of the question, like
among the 3,
or just in general, like out of 10, like how well it fits?
I would probably rank it a 6. I mean, it fits everything, and my judgment and of ranking may be partially influenced by the fact that I'm not a huge Christopher Nolan fan.
Okay.
That I think he's an okay actor, and I don't like Christian Bale. Michael Caine is okay, but he's playing another crafty Britishman, so it's typecast again. And Hugh Jackman feels like every actor ever. So yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I would probably have to rank this like a 7 out of 10 for fitting the question, just because I think that there are other movies that you could have chosen
that are way better,
that were a little bit better than this. And again, I thought The Prisoners was pretty good as well. Again, kind of hard to rank it based off the question this time because you know, like when we're picking the best of something, that's just
it's a lot of subjective.
Yeah, a lot of subjectiveness. But the movie, even though I really did enjoy The Prestige overall, a little bit more than you, actually a lot more than you. Yeah. Honestly, these movies seem like they're in that category of you've either never heard of them or they've just kind of been forgotten because there have been other movies that have come out that have done these aspects better. Yep. So, again, it was kind of hard to rank them this time because the best questions they're hard to argue too. It was hard to rank. But at the end of the day, it was a very fun episode. And what we wanted to do, we didn't want to ask Twitter what the best Hugh Jackman movie was.
We wanted to take that question and turn it on its ear.
Yes, because we like to do that sort of thing around the Davis household.
We're just a little goofy.
So our question was, which Hugh Jackman role would have been better if he were replaced with Wolverine?
So if you took The Prestige and instead of being Angiers, it was Wolverine.
Yeah.
For example, all those clones, they'd still be running around.
Yeah, because he would just be hanging out in the tank.
Right? He'd just be like sitting. No, he'd probably broken out.
He would have broken out.
Adamantine skeleton.
Yes. So yeah, that movie, like he wouldn't be a magician if he were Wolverine. That movie would have been 2 seconds long.
He would have killed Christian Bale instead of shooting off his fingers.
Yeah, there would not have been a movie because there'd be no point for Wolverine to.
Though, you know what? That's the closest we're ever going to get to Wolverine versus Batman.
It's true. All right, so let's see what Twitter had to say.
Travis Wilkowski at Travis of Marvel said Wolverine's origins because he was barely even Wolverine in that.
That's pretty funny.
Fair.
That's pretty funny.
Austin Singleton at HWeird1 said, how has no one said Les Mis as Wolverine?
I had also thought of that. I think that movie would also have been like 2 seconds.
An hour shorter.
Yeah, because Wolverine... Because
there's other stories in that movie.
Yeah, but yeah, Wolverine, I don't think he would have dealt with those shenanigans.
No. Also, he wouldn't have gotten sick and died in the end.
It's true. All right, Randall Sands says, I'm leaning towards The Fountain, but pretty much Wolverine in any of his movies would be fine by me.
That's fair.
All right. Hamza Juicer said Wolverine and Prisoners would have been something amazing.
Yeah, things would have been very... He could have found the girls by smell.
Exactly. That movie, another one where the movie would have been shorter.
Like an hour and a half shorter. I mean, they got to pad it a little bit, some Jake Gyllenhaal scenes, but in general,
he would have solved the problem.
He would have solved the problem himself instead of just making it worse.
Yeah. Eric Monroe said Van Helsing.
Yeah, he's already kind of Wolverine, but with, adding the claws and the regeneration and the attitude would have made it a little more hilarious. I mean, good hilarious.
Calvin Hoskins said his role in Flushed Away would have been rather interesting.
Never seen Flushed Away.
I know that's an animated movie. I think it's about someone that gets flushed down the toilet.
Sounds like a Finding Nemo spinoff. So, next.
Kimber Barrett said, I'm going to say Kate and Leopold again, but now it's Kate and Wolverine. Yes.
Kate and Logan.
I would love that movie so much more if it were Wolverine, but instead of all the awkwardness of him being out of time with our society, it would just be Wolverine being Wolverine.
I can imagine the butter commercial scene with him as Wolverine, just be like, what am I supposed to say? This is stupid. Why are you doing this?
Odd Shaped Panel, our friend Tom said Wolverine in Van Helsing would be amazing, so agreeing with our earlier comments.
Less crossbows, more fist fighting.
All right, well, that's all that Twitter had to say. Any final movie suggestions that you have besides Prestige?
I really like the concept of Kate and Leopold. I just think with Wolverine, it would turn into like Beastmaster 3, and I think that'd be fantastic. It would just be glorious.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything other than Kate and Leopold, Kate and Wolverine. That's the first thing that came to my mind when we pitched the question to Jack. So, All right, guys, that about wraps up this episode. If you would like to leave us a comment below, we would appreciate that. What's your favorite Hugh Jackman movie?
Or what movie would be better suited by replacing that role with Wolverine?
We want to hear from you, and also if you are not a fan of leaving comments on videos, you can tweet at us. We're both on Twitter. I'm at @that_Mrs. Davis.
And I'm at Drake Masters.
Thanks for watching this video. We really cannot wait to hear from everybody.
Yeah, see you next time.
Bye! Yes, so we don't really know a lot about this other than it stars Batman and
Thunder.
Thunder, apparently. Batman and Thunder. A new series coming to Netflix in 2018.
There's probably a superhero named Thunder.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know anything about superheroes. That's why all those fan frictions that have superhero questions are super hard for me.
Yeah.